Does it have a case number on it? Cool. All right. Take your time. Robert, if you want to call the meeting to order.
Yes, I'll now call to order this regular meeting of the Jersey City Historic Preservation Commission. It is Monday, October 21st, 2024, 6:38 p.m.
Please be advised that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice of the time, date, and place of this regularly scheduled meeting of the Jersey City Historic Preservation Commission was sent to the Jersey Journal, Jersey City Reporter, and El Especialito on Thursday, October 17th. Same notice was provided to the city clerk for posting on the bulletin board outside of the city clerk's office in City Hall and on the Jersey City website. I have proof of this notice in evidence, if we could mark it as B1. Thank you. All right, we'll move to a roll call attendance. Commissioner Amatuzzo,
Present.
Commissioner Sankamp,
Here.
Commissioner Gunther,
Here.
Commissioner Sakong,
Here.
Commissioner Cronin,
Here.
Commissioner Garriga is absent, Commissioner Blazak is absent, Vice Chair Gucciardo, and Chairman Gordon.
Present.
All right, there are 7 members of the commission in attendance tonight. 5 affirmative votes are needed for a certificate of appropriateness. Next item down is the approval of minutes from the September 16th, 2024 meeting. Anyone have any questions, corrections, anything like that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have Commissioner Gucciardo and then Commissioner Amatuzzo. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, copies of correspondence and application materials tonight are linked on tonight's agenda. If you would like to access those links, the easiest way is scanning this guy. If not, you can go to the Tyler portal and input the case number. All right, announcements. So we have a couple of announcements. The first is that case 8A, H-23-0183, has requested to carry to the next HPC meeting, and that will be on November 18th. So that case will be heard on November 18th. In the demolition review section, so item 11, there are announcements actually for all 4 of these cases. First is for 11A, the Morris Canal and Central Railroad. That application is being heard tonight, but I just want to note a correction on the agenda. The case number is listed as B-23-1338. It's actually B-24-1338. And then for Cary demolition cases, 11BA is carrying to the November 18th meeting. 11BC is also carrying to the November 18th meeting. And 11BB, 169-179 Palisade Ave, has elected to withdraw their application. So they will not be proceeding with the demolition permit request at this time. That is all of the announcements I have. So that leaves us with open public comment. Are there any members of the public in attendance this evening who would like to speak on matters regarding historic preservation that are not on tonight's agenda? So this is for cases not on tonight's agenda. You can approach the public comment mic. All right, staff sees no members of the public approaching the microphone and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and that brings us to old business. Robert, if you'd like to call the first case.
Before we do that, so we're also going to be calling a couple
Oh,
of cases
yes.
out of order. So
Thank
I
you.
believe we're going to be skipping down to new business number 9C. That's case H-24-0316 for 172 Belmont Avenue. We're going to be moving that up in the agenda to directly after we hear 160 Sussex Street.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make that announcement clear up front. And with that, I'll call under old business 8B, that's case H-23-0126. The applicant is Gene O'Connell Esquire. On behalf of Nitin Kumar, owner, the address is 160 Sussex Street in the Paulus Hook Historic District. The application is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction a proposed 4-story masonry residential building at the west end of a row of altered, contributing, book-matched Italianate townhouses constructed circa 1865 to replace and partially reconstruct the former building on the site demolished by order of the Construction Code Official 2003. This was carried from the August 12, 2024 regular HPC meeting.
You can. We don't actually typically do that, but yeah, it's all right. None of us are licensed because they don't license for historic preservation. So.
Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, Dean, do you mind just pressing or tapping on the push button just to? Yeah, you don't have to press it. You just like a tap, and as long as it's green, it's on.
It's on now.
There we
Okay,
go.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm always technology challenges, but I'm glad I could handle that well. So, good evening, Chairman and members of Historic Commission. My name is Gene O'Connell. I am representing Nitin Kumar, the owner. I have one witness tonight. Jason Vasil is our architect. He's all ready to go. He'll present the plans to you, and it's for a new residential 2-family building.
Thanks.
Your procedures for, I imagine Jason has testified before the board before as an expert witness.
He has. We're going to swear him in first, though.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. State and spell your full name.
Jensen Vasil, V as in Victor, ASI. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Jensen Vasil. I'm the architect for the project at 160 Sussex Street, which is a new building that's being constructed on a vacant lot. It's a 3-family building. It'd be a proposed 3-story brick building. The building is just coming up now. The building is at the corner of Sussex and Van Voort Street. And the building is, as was prefaced earlier, a book-matched Italianate, on a block of book-matched Italianate row houses. So this building, the proposed building would restore the front facade to its original configuration, basically based on the historic evidence, photos and whatnot. It would restore the front of the building and would align with the rest of the block. For the bulk of the building would be conforming. It's a 60% lot coverage, and it would consist of, as I mentioned, 2 residences with storage at the lowest level, at the ground level. So as far as the building, the materials, the front brick would match the rest of the block. The ground floor would be cast brownstone, which would match again the rest of the block. The stoop would be a replication of the rest of the block. So the front facade would be fully uniform with the adjacent buildings. The windows would be wood. The windows would be with the wide stiles, same original details as what was there from the 1938 photo that you can see on that HPC 1. So as we move through, again, the building is conforming. On the site plan, you can see that 60% lot coverage, the small stairs that come out the first floor unit on the back of the building, because those are because the ground floor is just storage. We're also adding a garden along all of Van Voort Street that would align with the rest of the gardens. That would be fenced in with a fence that's consistent with the block frontages. And at the front of the building, they'd be fenced in with a planter bed, and that would be, again, consistent with the block frontage, a replication of other adjacent properties, which I'll demonstrate in some further slides. The inside of the areaway, inside the fence, would be a natural bluestone, and with a thermal finish, and there would be a fence at the property line that fronts Van Voorst Street from the back of the building to the adjacent garage, which is to the north of the property. So our property, as an end building, we have an open yard that extends to the other corner property. On the next sheet, HPC 3, you can see the context of the site location. Again, it's the corner lot. On the front, you can see how uniform the buildings are on the block. You can also see the 158 Sussex, which is directly adjacent on detail number 2, which our replication would be closely matched to. That building, I'll mention, that is leaning a bit from when the other building had been removed. So we will have a seismic gap or a thin gap between the two buildings because it's impossible to exactly stitch it in or align it. There's nothing plumb there that's left. Number 3, the photo number 3, you can see there are some stairs and decks that as you go further down the block, ours would be much less intrusive. We have a little bit more building space, but not as many, no encumbrances or no other decks that would project off the back. On sheet HPC 4, you can see the interior layouts at the top. The top plans show the storage space at the ground floor, which is in the flood zone, so that is going to be built to be wet flood proofed. The first floor, the first through third floors, which have the residential units, and a roof deck, which is only for the unit 2, the top floor unit. And then at the bottom of that sheet, you can see the iron replication of the fence that's along Sussex Street and Van Voorst, and some enlarged details as well. On the following page, HPC 5, there's the restoration elevation for the front facade, again outlining the wood windows. We do have some site historic evidence of the lintels that are in possession of the Historic Preservation Office. So we'll be taking that lintel and replicating it in cast stone, creating a mold for it and replicating it. The same similarly for the hood around the door, we would be replicating the site evidence at the adjacent properties. So we'd be forming a mold and casting it in the original way, which is a 4-part casting for the hood around the door. The doors themselves would be replicated to a property down the street, which I'll show you in a second. And the cornice would be, which is consistent all the way down the block, the cornice would continue to the end of the block, the end of our building, and would stop at the end of our building. So it has the little setback where there's ever a change in cornice, you'll see this detail where the top cornice piece, the board is set back a little bit from the end of the building. The corbel details as well are there. And the brownstone material is, which is really cast stone at the front of the building with horizontal rustication. Again, same to match that block. There are 2 water tables as well, a major and a minor water table. The one at the floor line and the one that's just about 2 feet off the ground. That also would be the same profile as the rest of the block. One other note on the sheet, there is the proposed light would be a pendant light that's tight to the inside of the head of the door. So it's in the actual thickness of the wall, not mounted on the face of the building. On the following sheet, HPC 6, you can see the proposed side elevations. So as a clear distinction between new and existing, or new and restoration and new construction, the restoration of the front facade is complete. And then the side elevation is considerably simpler. We've removed the lintels from the tops of the windows. We've removed the cast stone at the ground floor and brought the brick all the way down to grade, and then popped in some of the flood vents in order to comply with the flood regulations. One other note on this sheet, you can see an enlarged detail of the stoop. Again, the stoop is based upon other site evidence for adjacent properties down the block. We will have a gate on the side entrance, the side of the stoop, and there will be a light that's not visible on the underside of the stoop landing, but it will be motion censored for security. So it will not be visible though to the public right of way. On the rear facade, again, a little bit simpler windows, but maintaining the same brick, so the brick looks together. All the window colors from the front to the side would be the same color, but different material. So on the front of the building, it's wood. On the side of the building, it would be aluminum clad. So the cladding, they would in the consistent color throughout. And then the next sheet, HPC 7 shows the front window detail with the enlarged mutton, the thick mutton in the middle. HPC 9 shows the front, the lower door on the basement, and as well as the door that's underneath the stoop, and the side cornice. So the side cornice is a very simple 2-layer fascia board that's wrapped in aluminum. So that aluminum would be the same color as the windows. So there's consistency between the windows, the door colors, and the cornice color. On sheet HPC 9, you can see the jack arch above the windows. Simpler detail with the aluminum clad windows on the side, but still with the variation 6, the curved top. And HPC 10 is finally the back window, which is a aluminum clad window with a 2/2 configuration. On HPC 11, there are some details for the roof deck, including the sky door. So the sky door cannot be visible from the public right of way. We set the roof deck back from both frontages so that it can't be seen, and it's a pedestal roof deck system, minimum size and nature. That you can see 2 sightline diagrams there at the bottom, number 5 and number 6, which both show no visibility from the public right of way. And finally, on the last sheet, HPC 12, we're showing the existing photo of that block frontage, our proposed building, showing that is consistent with the other predominant buildings on that block. The rear fascia gutter, which is just a simple black gutter detail, black aluminum with a leader. The front door, which is to match a subject property down the street, which is noted here, and also made out of wood, custom designed raised panel at the bottom. There's a large pyramidal design in that bottom panel that would be replicated, as well as the detail around the OG detail around the window and the base panel. And then finally, a very simple rear stair from the rear unit to the backyard. So simple metal stair and some cable rail, just to be as non-invasive as possible. That concludes our presentation of the drawings of this proposed project, and I have some samples to pass around if you would like.
Yep. You can pick a side to start on. That one, I would recommend over there.
Sure.
More commissioners on that side.
This is the window for both front and sides. The E-pay, the brick, and the blue stone. One last thing I'd like to note, the brownstone is, the cast stone is going to match the other buildings on that block. I do not have a sample here of the matching. We would have to do that, submit that to HPO, and they would have to review it and approve it prior to fabrication.
Do any commissioners have any questions for Jensen or want him to go back to a part of the plans or anything like that?
The brick choice, has that been reviewed with the HPO?
Yes.
Okay. And the window configuration, how did you arrive at 4/4 on the front facade?
With the with staff on site, we went over which windows are would have the configuration, what was historically accurate for those windows.
And you chose on the Van Voorst facade to do what configuration there?
So that is those are just 2/2. Again, a little simpler with a standard sentence.
And then 2/2 on the rear?
That's right.
And your reasoning for going simpler on what I would consider a major, since you're a corner building, it's a major facade, the rationale for doing that and not continuing the cornice around?
Would be to make a clear distinction of what was being replicated and what is new, because the original building didn't go this far back, and those window openings aren't in the same configuration. So this was a delineation to have existing and new. I should mention that we did meet with Paulus Hook Neighborhood Association as well, and there was discussion about wrapping the cornice around and keeping it just to end at the front facade, and that was one of the points of discussion that was agreeable to the Neighborhood Association as well.
That you treat it as you have it in your drawings?
That's correct.
Understood.
Any other questions, comments? Should we go to staff comments?
Go ahead, please.
I'm just wondering, is there precedent for this with partial reconstruction of a building like this? I'm, just looking at the standards, it refers to reconstruction being appropriate when it's essential for understanding and interpreting a value of a historic district, or when no other building, structure, object, or landscape feature with the same associative value has survived, etc. And here we have, book matched neighboring properties. So why are we reconstructing?
I think Dan will get to the thought process behind the reconstruction during staff comments.
Okay.
So we can answer any other questions then, and then if not, we can jump into staff.
Okay. And I had a question about the treatment on the rear of the building.
Correct.
The stairs that are coming down from not the ground floor, but the floor above,
Correct.
are they visible to the public right of way, or is there a fence enclosing that area?
There's a fence all along that Van Voorst, correct?
But you have a metal fence, and does that change to a higher fence at the rear?
It does. So there's on that second sheet, the HPC2, there's a 6-foot-high wood fence that's at the property line, and then there's the planter bed, and then a metal fence
Outside
in
of
front.
that?
That's correct.
My question, which I'm not able to see, is does that higher fence continue to the back of the building?
It does. Yes.
So, okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about the brick.
Sure.
I don't see, maybe I missed it. Is this a thin brick system or is it a full brick?
No,
or-
it's a full brick.
Full brick, okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I think I'd like to hear more about the rationale for the full restoration on the front, but not carrying that through onto the side of the building, because viewing it from a corner perspective, you're going to be looking at a restoration with 4/4 windows alongside of 2/2 and a much simpler brick facade with no wrap on the cornice. I'm just not understanding how that's going to work.
All right, well then let's keep testimony open and then we can, do you guys want to do staff comments or public comment first? Just because you guys have these questions now. Usually we do public comment first.
Sure.
Okay. If there are any members of the public in attendance who would like to speak regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic. All right. Staff sees no members of the public present and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I think Dan's going to do his staff comments from there. So,
I don't want to give Maggie and Mike and Jonathan my cooties. The subject building has been in my hopper for the past 23 years. So this just keeps on coming back. The original building was built prior to 1865. It was developed as Henderson Place, as a particular row of modest middle-class housing. The cornice, the lintels were painted to simulate the brownstone trim. The windows were given a wide center muntin with a bead down the center to somewhat replicate an Italianate window, which would open out as a casement, but it had the practical use of a German or English double-hung window. The pattern of the windows is based on surviving site evidence on the block and comparisons with 1938 tax photographs along the rest of the block.
Oops,
Can you get that back up?
just lost it.
Thanks. Okay. As Jensen had said, I have one of the lintels for the second and the third floors in my office, and that has been used several times to make castings for other buildings that were being reconstructed. The first floor window is slightly wider and will need to have a special mold made, as will the lintel over the front door. Staff would be more than happy to help the architect and the applicant to try and get permission from neighbors who have the same configuration. The brownstone sills and the brownstone basement, ashlar, the water tables, and the stoop will all be a cast brownstone, okay, to match the brownstone that was originally there. We do have the bottom stair still on site for color matching. The bricks that were shown are a very good modern equivalent of the historic bricks along the block. This building has seen a lot of problems over the years. At the late 19th century, there was a store put in at the basement, which seems to have perhaps not helped the building. The store was closed up approximately 1965, and the building was, or the storefront was blocked up. And it seems like some metal jacks, when the building was being demolished, it appeared that there were some metal jacks that were inserted to hold the building up when it was blocked in. For several years, the building remained vacant and essentially became a victim of demolition by neglect. Prior owner had come into the commission with an application to demolish the building. That application was denied unanimously by the commission. Then another application came in to stabilize and to rehabilitate the building. However, that application was woefully incomplete, and woefully incomplete for quite a while. If my memory serves me right, it was about a year and a half. The staff of the Historic Commission, namely Claire Davis, spoke with our construction code official who ordered the building to be stabilized. An engineering firm came in. The building was stabilized at the west side. Large wooden braces were put up, and that held the building for approximately 2 years. There was some movement that was noticeable, and it appears that I have the date in here, I believe it was 2004. By 8/14/04, the building had been ordered to be demolished by order of the construction code official. The front facade had started to delaminate, and it was beginning to pull the facade of 158. The western wall was beginning to tilt towards the west, and the construction code official at the time was afraid that this building could pull down 158 and the adjacent buildings, perhaps. 158 at that time was exhibiting displacement of bricks. The mortar joints had started to widen, and the building was taken down very rapidly, very quickly. And apparently relieved some of the pressure, at least for the time being. We did try to salvage bricks, cast iron, the doors, but unfortunately, due to the emergency nature of the work, we were not able to salvage anything except for one of the lintels. Other pieces had cracked or had fallen during demolition. There were a few attempts by owners and prospective purchasers to come in and to build a building on this site. And one of the conditions of all of those applications was that the front facade of Henderson Place be reconstructed so that you have the center at 146, 148, I believe, and you have the repetition that goes straight down. That has been a consistent requirement to the commission, which did not permit the original demolition. On the side, the commission has been somewhat more lenient. There have been a number of different proposals brought before the commission. Some were more modern, some were more traditional. This one happens to be a more traditional rendering, but it is simpler. I think that the reconstruction of the front, although technically, because we are not using cast iron, because we are not going to be using a brownstone, The reconstruction of the front facade, I use that a little bit loosely, but it is as close as we would be able to get without having to find new lintels. These are no longer in production, and production is very hard and costly. But we are making a very good attempt to reintroduce this lost element into the streetscape. On the side, it was the applicant and architect's choice to do a more traditional rendering. And I think that while a more modern rendering could be just as, successful or more successful, generally the commission has left that to the applicant, unless there was a good reason for another approach. I do think that the simplicity of the side does help to distinguish it from the front as a reconstruction. And excuse me while I reconnect. And the west elevation is also not a copy of the original building. There are more window openings being put in, and the window openings span a larger section of the wall. I think that the reintroduction of the front areaway and the front railing is quite important, especially on the west side, where most likely, given site evidence, at all the other corners in the adjacent area, there was a small areaway that separated the public sidewalk from the building and would give a modicum of privacy to the dwellers therein. With conditions, staff feels that he can recommend the approval of this project. I'm giving a very quick synopsis of the history, and I think that Jensen was able to give a good synopsis of the materials that are being used and the rationale behind the construction. My biggest concern as staff is that we do not have any sort of engineering drawings. We do not have a soils report, soil study, and I am concerned, considering that I understand that the buildings in this area have been prone to movement, that new construction could perhaps put adjacent historic resources at some risk. So before any construction permits or zoning approvals are filed for, I think it would be incumbent on the commission to condition any approval on the submission of soils reports and engineering studies to make sure that the adjacent historic buildings are not harmed. Also, the commission most likely would want to make sure that an engineer is hired to monitor the buildings during excavation, during construction. Crack monitors should be in place, and monitoring should go on throughout the project. Since my voice is giving out, does anyone have any questions or any thoughts?
Yeah, Dan, so I mean, I think this goes back to the question I raised a little earlier, which is, I mean, if we accept the premise of reconstruction, I don't have a problem with the proposed design, but as a threshold matter, I'm not certain that reconstruction is warranted under the historic design standards based on just my plain reading of them. So, particularly if this were, these were all uniform matching properties and one of them were being reconstructed, I think there would be a stronger justification because having one missing or standing out would break up the rhythm and the harmony of the block. But here you have the property at the end, and if it's distinctive, then it just seems like it stands separate from that uniform block of properties. So again, why are we reconstructing rather than just treating this entirely as new construction?
Because this is the end of a book-matched row. You have a center point, okay? And you have a double staircase, 2 doors, and then your doors kind of flip, if you would. And from across the street, this completes the row that was once Henderson Place, visually. Also, I do think that this helps to show people what the original plan for the street was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a large grand facade, a monumental facade that repeated itself in such a way that you lost track of exactly where did your building begin, where did your building end. Also, it does speak to the point that these buildings, sometimes we can't save them entirely, but we can try to preserve their memory and their visual character. And if you go to that block and if you look, I think that another building would be quite an intrusion in the row, regardless of whether it's at the end of the row or in the middle of the row. I think it would become an intrusion. It would not necessarily be subordinate to this row. The other thing is that this building was not to be demolished. The commission saw it as being important enough to be stabilized. And if the commission would like, I could find the records of the hearings and the court hearings. And the commission did prevail in making sure that the building was not demolished until demolition by neglect ran amok, and we were not able to save the building. And it was fairly quick and catastrophic. I was present during the demolition, and the demo crew was even concerned to salvage things, knowing full well that the bricks and the cast iron and the wood had material value for resale. Their concern was to get the building down safely.
Okay. I do find that historic context helpful, so thank you.
If I might ponder or think out loud a little bit with my fellow commissioners' indulgence. Typically, Dan, your thorough and rigorous history and explanation of the previous building that stood on this site, it paints a really vivid picture, which I deeply appreciate. But that building was demolished, right? And so typically when I see applications that are not a repair of an existing building or a repair of or a restoration of fabric that in some semblance still remains, when it's a wholly new structure that simulates an old building, typically I find that objectionable because I think it brings down the historic quality of actual historic buildings. I find the confusion of a new building that sort of pretends to be old, an intrusion on the historic quality of actual historic buildings. The reason why I find myself kind of waffling from that position in this application is because of your argument about the block, which is to say, in the same way that, if a corner of a historic building got damaged and new bricks were brought in to repair the building, your argument about this building essentially repairing the block in other words, the historic structure we are trying to repair is not the building, which is gone, it's the block. That's an argument I find myself more swayed by. I can't help but think that there would have been a way to do that with a contemporary architectural language that speaks both to our time but also is deferential to the rhythm and massing and language of the historic building. So I feel like there could have been a both-and situation. As you say, that's not the path that the architect or the applicant chose to take. So, so in my mind, the conflict that I'm weighing in my head is this a sort of a zombie of an old building that's sort of like rising from the dead, or is this more about the block? I'm going back and forth, but I'm
If this building, going back to your comments about if we had a building that had lost a corner and we would be repairing it, I do think that is very much the analogy that I'm trying to draw. I'm just not doing it very succinctly. I do think that this is an integral part of the row, and we have had a number of other buildings where the facades have been reconstructed. 135, 137 Sussex Street, 72, 76 Essex Street, large part of 280 4th Street. There are a number of buildings where we have very little left, actually, of the historic building, except for walls that have been opened for larger doors and picture windows that have been essentially reconstructed to put things back in order. I do wonder, though, if we did not have this almost 20-year gap, okay, of various applications and applications that were approved and then delayed. If this was right after the building had come down, if the clock had not been run out, I think that we would probably be, well...
To me, the critical threshold is not the gap, it's the demolition.
The demolition was necessary for public
Understood.
safety.
And that's where the trouble that I'm having is are we building a fake? I'm not trying to answer my own question. I'm just letting you know sort of.
We're doing our best to reconstruct an integral part of the row.
Yeah.
Okay. There's been a lot of research done, a lot of measurements done on site. The files for this project, I'd be more than happy to bring them in. They're voluminous. I think that Maggie has seen them. They take up a good part of our desk. And the building was recorded so that it could be reconstructed. So it is staff's opinion that it would be appropriate to reconstruct the front facade of this building to complete the row.
So, Dan, I think you cited some precedent for reconstructing facades in their entirety or significant components of the facade. Are there any other situations that come to mind that mirror this situation where we reconstructed an entire building or substantially all of a building for purposes of basically reconstructing a portion of a block? I think the way that Commissioner Sakong explained it was pretty much what I had in mind.
Yes, I cannot remember. I am trying to recall where.
Dan, I might be able to help you. Erie Street, there was a owner who basically took the facade down, demoed the facade, and they were required to replace it to keep that row intact.
Yes, I can testify to that.
Yeah.
27 Erie Street,
Right.
One of the first mayor of Jersey City, his name was Gregory, one of the Gregory cottages, built about circa 1833, 1835. The applicant had come in wanting to put 2 stories on this end-gabled row house of 2.5 stories. He was told no. The commission and staff both told him, and the building lost its front facade and its back wall on a Saturday morning.
Right.
This was a complete row, just like the Sussex Street row is, and there was a community uproar. And the building was reconstructed with the bricks. I was actually not employed by the city at that time, but I did get to number the bricks and to try and segregate the bricks from the face of the building from the bricks that were used on the interior of the building. That was really rather important. And there was this great hue and cry. I remember this is before cell phones were really popular, but word of mouth traveled very quickly. Neighborhood showed up at commission meetings. And I think one of the reasons we don't have much in the way of people here today is there was a meeting with the community, and they were told, we're going to reconstruct the front facade, which has been something the community has looked at for the past 20 years or so. But yes, 27 Erie Street was a very important,
And it was the end unit as well.
it was the end unit as well. And it was a very important way of, and if you go there today, the reconstruction was done with it was a quality reconstruction to the point where the owner, God be good to him, was able to use drawings from Historical American Buildings survey that showed the transomed and side-lit Greek Revival door, which the sidelights and the transom were on an angle, and really particularly magnificent construction. Even that was put back. So that when that building, all the other buildings in that row, including the one that was recorded by HABS, HABS, Historic American Buildings Survey, they had all been altered over time. 27 was reconstructed in such a way that we were able to have the appearance of the original building as a guide.
Well, I'm certainly more comfortable knowing that the commission would be acting consistently.
But yes, this is consistent, and I can think of a couple of other buildings, mostly buildings that, I mean, right now I'm reviewing a building that had so many picture windows put into it that basically all I have left are 2 pilasters on either side. I mean, it's in the middle of a row. And it's an important Grecian row on 4th Street with these pilastered buildings built to represent a temple. And that will be a reconstruction. It's in the center of the block, but it will be able to give us the visual appearance of what that block once looked like.
So I'll
Complete the story.
I'll allow the other commissioners to weigh in, but at this point, I would support a zombie building this Halloween.
Really? Thank you, Austin.
That's what I'm here for.
Any other questions or comments for staff?
There was one other thing. I did want to note that in the Paulus Hook report, the Paulus Hook report is probably one of our better reports from the 1970s, 80s in terms of descriptive writing. And the report talks about this particular construction model being type B, Italianate. They actually call out this particular type of building in the report as being particularly contributing.
I'm particularly happy to see the fence that travels completely around the property and the landscaping that's taking place within it to create that, as you mentioned, a sense of privacy or separation from the sidewalk on that facade. I think that makes a major difference.
And it does help to continue that the effect of having some nature within an urban environment that would have been very popular during the period of significance when this building was built, rather.
I see that the corner is planted quite well, as you have a front garden here as well, so that makes
Yes.
a huge difference as well.
Yes. Most of this row is also rather special because it does not have any parking intruding in the front yards. And pretty much every yard has a tree and some greenery and an actual garden within.
Any other questions, comments, additions to conditions? That's a good rhyme. All right. Jensen or Jean, do you guys have anything you wanted to add?
The applicant's comfortable with the conditions that were mentioned by staff?
I do want to add a couple of more.
Cool.
Well, first of all, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Dan for his input, not only in the history of the building, but all the suggestions to make the project that much better. And also Diane Case from Paulus Hook. We all went to the site. We spent a couple of over an hour there looking at everything. So I want to put it on the record that we appreciate. And we agree to the current conditions. And when I hear the extra conditions, I'll probably agree to those too.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one time we let you come to a site visit. There were several others. I did want to note, I noticed this in my my notes, the pendant fixture. The community had asked that the pendant fixture actually be inserted within. So if you could do some sort of a hi-hat or something so that it's not actually coming down. Please remove the aluminum cladding on the side fascia. We could use a painted cement board perhaps, of some sort. While staff and the community who brought this up are not necessarily opposed to the aluminum clad fascia on the side, everyone was concerned about oil canning, which happens, oil canning.
Yeah, the buckling and the,
The buckling of the aluminum. So a painted material, cementitious, would be fine. And the door would be a recreation based on site evidence. I believe one of the doors that we had looked at was at 146. It will be a custom door, not a true style or a Marvin door. Okay. But those are the conditions that staff recommends and recommends approval.
And we also agree to those conditions.
All right. That being said, if anyone wants to make a motion for approval with the conditions in the staff report and read into the record.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay. Amatuzzo and Cronin. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Sandkamp?
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther?
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong?
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
Commissioner Amatuzzo?
Aye.
Commissioner Griega is absent. Commissioner Blazak is absent. Vice Chair Gucciarda?
right?
And Chairman Gordon.
Aye.
Right, there are 7 votes in favor, none against, and no abstentions. The COA with conditions is approved.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so we are now taking a little bit of a detour into an item from new business. It's labeled 9C. This is case H-24-0316. The applicant is Esteban Osorio, Dior Construction, for Yasmin Taylor Hart, owner. The address is 172 Belmont Avenue in the West Bergen East Lincoln Park Historic District. The application is for a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of the historic clapboard at all 4 sides of the house with cementitious substitute siding, replacement of original historic wood decorative window moldings with cementitious substitute trim boards at secondary facades, while maintaining original window trim at primary facade, as well as clapboard and trim at the first floor porch of a contributing altered 2.5-story frame Queen Anne dwelling.
You can come up to the podium. As you set up, we're just going to swear you in.
Would you raise your right hand and be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And let me get one at a time. Full name and spelling.
Esteban Osorio, Esteban Osorio.
Teresa Taylor, Teresa, Taylor, Taylor.
All right, can you just make sure the microphone is on at the podium? If it doesn't have a green light, you tap where it says push. There we go. I tried to click on. Cool. All right, and then you should, are you plugged in?
I don't have anything as far as plans.
Oh, that's
anything.
fine.
I just have some paperwork in front of me. So.
Okay, that's fine. If you want to present it, you just plug in, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. You're welcome to begin your testimony.
Good evening, Commission. Please forgive me any miscues here. This is my first time with a commission this size. I'm with Dior Construction and Future Remodeling. We are a private residence exterior home remodeling company. We specialize in fiber cement, roofing, and windows. Teresa reached out to us. She had a project consultant go out to the house, and they committed to a contract to reside the home. A project manager was assigned to the home, and the project was going to continue. However, there was a miscue. That being was we didn't check with the town or Jersey City, and they assigned a crew, and they started the work. And at that time when we started the work, Jersey City officials came by and stopped the work because we discovered we were in a historic district. That time I spoke with Dan, and I understood as far as the implications that were about to occur. That is not something us as a company, we take a lot of pride as far as our contracts. As you can see, I uploaded all of it. Everything's extremely detailed. So the project manager assigned to it is no longer assigned to it. I submitted all the paperwork as necessary. And yeah, that's all I have for now.
Do you want to explain to the commission what was proposed for the building, like what the contract says you guys were going to do?
So the initial contract was a fiber cement collapse siding, cedar mill finish, country lane red, according to the contract that was proposed. Also with 5/4x4 trim, using a hidden fastener system, using narrow crown staples in the back of the hidden fastener system, so no exposed nails, which is common with fiber cement. We don't want any rust coming down after it rains. So, and also we were going to use a polyolefin building wrap with acrylic tape to seal the building.
Before you applied the clapboard
Yes, sir.
underneath, yeah.
Yes, sir. Actually, take a step back. So essentially, we tear everything down to the substrate and confirm as far as the substrate's flat and finished. More importantly, we check for any wood rot, any mold. So at the time, the team that was assigned to it was more of our senior teams because of the type of building it was. The pump jacks are really tight, it's really high. So anytime when we rip everything off, we immediately start weatherproofing the building because you're running against the clock. They found wood rot in all the corners and also as far as junction walls around the building. So we started proceeding as far as replacing the wood in necessary areas. We use a minimum of either CDX or RTD, no CDX, or sorry, no OSB as far as wood replacement, but also to the existing thickness where necessary. So once we confirmed as far as the substrate was in good shape and it was flat and finished, we started putting building wrap on the house. Again, we use an Olifon paper wrap.
So if I could interrupt you just
Yeah.
for the narrative here. So what happened was the original material had already been stripped off the building, and you were already securing and waterproofing the building at the point where the project was stopped.
Yes, sir.
So all the original material that was on the building has been removed
On 4 sides.
on
Yes,
4
sir.
sides, and the trim and all that has also been removed
On 4 sides.
and is lost at this
Yes, sir.
point? I see.
Yeah, please.
Just trying to understand where we are.
I might be able to explain a little bit better what is left. On the rear facade, which would be the north facade, the east and the west facades have been stripped. Okay, there is no more clapboard, there's no more fascia wood, there's no more trim around the windows, except for the wooden trim on the east side around a stained glass window. On the front of the building, the clapboard has been removed from the gable down. However, from the porch, the first floor down, work had stopped at that point. So the historic fabric is still remaining at the porch, the first floor.
We just found a photo that depicts exactly what you're talking about.
The
Is that
four,
photo an exhibit? Should we make it part of that?
Well, I imagine you're looking at the application materials, correct, commissioners? Right, the ones that are linked?
Memorandum, it's attached to the memorandum.
Yeah.
Perfect. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
yeah,
Okay.
that would be in the staff report. There is a photograph
Yes.
of how the building looks currently, taken from the west. The shingled gables have not been removed. The shingles at the gables have not been removed either. I think that's a fair assessment. The wood trim at the main facade, second floor, is still there.
Go ahead, continue, please.
So once we tore everything off, we confirmed the substrate, we had the building wrap on, we sealed all the seams with acrylic tape in weatherboarding fashion. And at that point, we stopped all work. The dumpster was removed, unfortunately. That had all the wood clap inside of it, so there's no, we couldn't retrieve it at that point. And that was in July. At that point, I spoke with Dan, and again, I understood as far as the severity of the issue. The project manager assigned to it is no longer assigned to it. So we are applying for a certificate of appropriateness to get the house sealed up as soon as possible, while staying in line with Dan's recommendations.
I have a question about the proposed cladding. Is that similar in sort of the profile and like, is the original clapboard, or is it a different texture? Is it like more of a shake or a shingle, or is it it's more of the clapboard that came off the house?
This, yeah. I have materials here.
Oh, great.
Okay, great.
This is the hidden fastener system we use for all the corners around the windows. That goes behind the trim. Again, we don't like any exposed nails on the trim, because once the weather hits the trim or the nails, they start to rust over time. You start to see the rust on the trim as it starts to come down. This is the building wrap, breathable but also weatherproof, and that's the clapboard piece of it.
But not in this color.
No, sir. No, it'll be a country lane red.
You don't have a sample of the color, yeah?
So we do have a sample. Again, when we started the project manager, at the time we purchased the materials, and the materials are on site.
There also, you have your materials already as
Yes, sir.
well.
All the materials are on site for this project.
It puts us in a very difficult position. What you're describing here is not ideal. Obviously, we would prefer to be able to advise you before purchases were made and product was committed to, and so
Yeah.
we'll see what we could do to sort
Was
it out. And we're
unfortunate.
obviously going to hear from staff what staff recommends we do.
I'm not, maybe I'm the only one. I'm not sure what reviewing, because
Yeah, exactly.
traditionally we're presented with drawings and details and samples in the colors that they're intended, that documents in written form what it is the proposed work represents. In the absence of that, I'm not sure how to evaluate this application.
Yeah. Maybe I could walk the commissioners through this?
Yeah, maybe we should hear from staff
Or,
right up front. Yeah.
Would that
What do you think?
That would be
be
fine.
would that be
Has to say
agreeable?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask that you look at your at the application materials that you have in front of you, and I'm going to try and walk you through how staff would have evaluated the project had none of this taken place.
If we may, we'd probably rather hear how you suggest we handle the situation at hand. The history's not going to help us. The situation that we have in front of us is what we need to resolve. So, I mean, that's just my personal opinion, but.
To skip ahead a little, I think, Dan, you were proposing that we approve it on only a temporary basis. Did you indicate what the next steps would be, how temporary we're talking? How do we handle it to put a, you know, a finite date on it, and how do we move forward? Do they have to come back?
Okay, so there's a couple of different things involved here, and I think that it might make more sense for me to walk through how this would have been reviewed had it come in de novo, so that it is not staff alone making a decision to do something or not do something. Staff is not able to and cannot approve the installation of substitute siding on this building. Okay? This building originally had, you can read in the designation report, which I have outlined in the report, originally had a shingled gable, cedar shingled gable, had wood trim around the windows, and a 4-inch reveal clapboard at the second and first floors. The clapboard had a 4-inch reveal. I understand that the proposed cementitious board will have a 7-inch reveal. Our standards talk about identifying important character defining fabric. So we had clapboard. Now, we're just going to deal with the clapboard for the minute because that's what's been removed. Staff would have recommended, had staff been consulted, I think any of the staff present tonight would have recommended that we remove any damaged or deteriorated siding and clapboard and replace it with new clapboard to match the historic clapboard. There was deferred maintenance on the building, and staff does acknowledge that there were several places in which the clapboard was in poor shape. However, when we have a building that is clad in clapboard, generally, when we have visible sides, even if they're secondary sides, and we have clapboard, we generally recommend that those sides be reclad with clapboard. They're visible, and they will age at the same rate. They will perform the same way as the sides of the building, as the primary facade of the building, and there will be an integral unity between all of the facades. And this is something that we do have a number of, we have a number of applications for this in the West Bergen East Lincoln Park Historic District, because these buildings are often clad in shingles and clapboard. On rare occasions, the commission has approved a substitute siding when there was already a substitute siding on a secondary facade that was visible. And the primary facade is generally the facade that we try to restore as best as is possible. If we are looking at a hierarchy of importance here, the primary facade, of course, would be the most important. The secondary facades, they are seen through an alleyway. Both secondary facades have three-sided oriels, and you can see the cross gables there. They are an integral part of the building. If the applicant had come to us asking to clad the back in a cementitious substitute siding, I probably would have encouraged against it, but I would not. But I probably would have issued a certificate of no effect because it would not have been visible from the public right of way. Now, you had some particular questions.
Well, the questions revolved around just understanding the circumstances and what we were, as Commissioner Sakong said, what is it that we're deciding here? It seems fairly obvious that the material that's been purchased and the fact that the building's been stripped is what it is, but we can't approve a 7-inch reveal of cementitious material on a building that requires a wood clapboard.
I'll go further. Even if the clapboard being proposed was exactly the right dimension and in exactly the right color and all that, without seeing drawings that say where this goes here, that goes there, I don't know that I would be comfortable approving that application, because again, it would be in my mind an incomplete application.
Right.
Irrespective of the choice of materials,
Right.
this has to do with the integrity of the application.
Right.
In my
I
mind.
mean, the way that this application was presented was atypical, to put it mildly. So we're relying more heavily than we normally would on staff's interpretation and explanation. But just skipping to the end of the staff report, I think you gave two options, both of which involve temporarily authorizing this work, if only to prevent further deterioration of the building. Is that really, are those really the only options? I mean, the weatherproofing, could that allow the building to be protected until such time as something more appropriate could be installed? And then we could go back to square one with, replacing the missing fabric?
I think that the owner has emailed me and has told me that the house is cold. Okay, it is becoming cold out. This wrap will only last so long. And if this had come into me de novo, I would have said no. And I don't think that the commission would have approved it either.
Right.
However, in this circumstance, as historic preservation officer, I have a building that just has wrap on it. And how do I preserve that building and preserve the integrity of the house and the comfort of the person who lives in there? And I have thought about this for months. I cannot recommend that this material be applied as a permanent, appropriate cladding on the building. The best that I can do is to say that perhaps we can do something temporary. I could, and there are sometimes the rare application where replacements are being made and we don't necessarily have drawings. This is one of those very small cases where we're not really even replacing like for like. So this is a bit of a new, it's a bit new for me too. This is the first application we have had that I can remember where we have an inappropriate material.
So Dan, are you saying that really all we're evaluating is whether to approve this on a temporary emergency basis, just so that the premises remain livable and habitable for the duration of the winter? But I still am not understanding the process here and how we then go to the next step of rehabilitating this building and restoring it to an appropriate condition, because I don't think that's been discussed or covered. I mean, are they coming back when the weather, when things warm up? I mean, what are we looking at?
Basically, how long is temporary?
Temporary is from ever minus a day.
I would also like to
Yeah, so-
Well, thank you.
I'm sorry. I mean,
I just will interject here for a second. I'm unclear of any authority for
Exactly.
the commission to grant any temporary approvals.
Exactly.
I get what you're saying as to the exigency of the issue, but I just, before we proceed
not our
down this
purview.
discussion of what does a temporary approval look like, I don't know if anyone in this room could say what a temporary approval looks like, right?
Generally, we have done temporary approvals in the past when there have been some emergencies. Usually, it's to tide us over, and it's for a period of, and there is a legal agreement. St. John's Church up on Summit Avenue, they were granted permission to temporarily have a rubber roof on the gables of the church while the building produced income to put the original slate roof back on the gables.
Yeah, but here we're talking about installing inappropriate material and then hoping that at some point in the future it's coming back off again to put the right material. So, just to get, without being insensitive to the applicant and the situation, there's not meaning to be insensitive, but at the same time, the commission has guidelines under which we can operate. The right answer here is to buy the appropriate material that belongs on the building, that is closely replicates what's missing, and install that material. This is, relatively speaking, not a huge amount of material, and that may not be any consolation to the applicant, but the bottom line is it's not a huge amount of material. The right material should be installed on the property, and it's not such a large project that it couldn't be done quickly.
In which case it would be approved with a certificate of no effect so that it wouldn't have to come before this commission in the first place.
Exactly, exactly. If it was the correct material, it could be expedited.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, just to get to the chase, I think that's where we're going here.
Yeah.
I tend to agree, and I am definitely sympathetic, but I also see that this is a self-inflicted wound. So I think that factors in.
May I ask the commission's indulgence for a 10-minute recess?
It's about that time.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, it's 8:08. Why don't we reconvene at 8:18?
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Forever minus some.
All right. So, it's 8:20. Calling the meeting back to order.
So I have spoken with the applicant and the owners, and would it be possible, given the approaching winter, to amend the application? Amending the application to doing 3 sides of the building in the cementitious board, including the 2 sides, east and west, that are visible from the public right-of-way, as well as the rear, in a 4-inch reveal, trying to copy the detailing of the front of the building, where we have site evidence as best as we can, and then restoring the wood, replacing the wood clapboard on the front of the building. Again,
Yeah, I don't think that's something we would approve if it came before us, and I don't think that we would be likely to approve it now.
A moment, please.
Yeah.
I think we skipped public comment.
We went right into staff comment. We'll do public comment before we do any. Yeah, we'll backtrack. Yeah.
Didn't want it to get lost in the shuffle.
I appreciate you bringing it up because I absolutely did forget about that, despite the fact that there is literally something written here saying public comment. Start. No.
I mean, you know. So yeah, this isn't freeze not that over.
Remand the application back to staff for the moment, for the time being, so that staff can see if there is some sort of very temporary, not permanent weatherproofing that can be taken, that can be done on the house, that will not harm any existing historic fabric or preclude the restoration of the building. And the applicants will come back with a revised scope of work with revised materials.
So rather than remanding, you're just carrying it to the next meeting?
We're carrying it to the next meeting, but allowing me and my office as historic preservation officer to make sure that the house is warm. I will use my prudent judgment to make sure that the house is not, that the house is warm that it is not going to be taking on water, that it is not going to get infiltrated by vermin, and that nothing will preclude restoration of the removed historic fabric.
So a quick question. All that's going to take a great deal of time. What is the objection to purchasing the proper material and applying it ASAP? Why wouldn't that be as effective? I know, I'm asking you, you're not the applicant, but it seems to me that that's just.
Because the current applicant, the current contractor, works exclusively with fiber cement products.
Right.
Okay? And there is an existing contract out there.
Right.
Okay? And there is existing material. And it's not that easy to just go out and, just get another contractor and retool. And so I'm asking the commission's indulgence here to to carry the application, as Jonathan had mentioned, to the next meeting. Meanwhile, remanding emergency remediation to me.
I mean, that's going back to the question of temporary measures. I mean, I don't think there's any objection to protecting the property or its inhabitants. But I think one of the concerns is that a temporary measure could potentially become permanent. So
Well,
without
in this
knowing,
case, I would say that I think if we can get the homeowner through the winter, okay. November, December, January, February, March, April. 6 months.
I'm not sure what we're talking about. It's very
Have
abstract.
6 months grace period.
Could you give us an idea what the temporary measures look like?
Yeah.
It could be additional wrap. I'd have to do some research. It could be some additional wrap. It could be styrofoam sheathing with Tyvek on top of it, something to insulate the building a little
I
bit.
actually think that we should not be deliberating
Yeah,
what the temporary measures look like. In fact, I think that's counter to sort of our interests. So,
Agreed.
I was wondering, should this just be carried and then that
Yes,
temporary
yeah.
thing become its own application that we are not involved with?
Yeah, Dan, you wanted us to table till next meeting, and then you can maybe make it into a no effect at that point.
But one question: if we do table it, will he have the power to make sure, like, if there's a big rainstorm next week or something, or if it gets really cold, like what happens?
Well, it's, again, I think it's not for us to decide
Right.
how
Yeah.
that
I'm
gets.
saying, will he
will
have that power?
decide.
I'm just asking if he'll have that power, because someone will have to have the power
Yes,
to do that.
I will assume that power
All right.
in my office as historic preservation officer. I've been doing this long enough. I think I have the right to.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Let's just carry the application.
yes, agreed.
I thought that's why it was originally couched in terms of a remand, because you were requesting some sort of special authority that normally you would not be vested with in this case. If these measures are within your power, then
I will.
don't ask,
Yeah.
don't tell.
Okay, then
So-
don't ask, don't tell, and we will try.
But we'll
to
table
come
it till
back.
next month? Well, do we need a
We will table it to a date uncertain.
Okay.
Okay, because I do not know when craftspeople and materials and such will be able to be available. But in the meantime, I will recommend that another application be submitted for immediate remediation work that I will approve under my own.
That's
authority.
fine. I really do not want to see this on the tabled cases in June. So let's just make sure that it doesn't, slip through the cracks. And I'm speaking to the applicant more than to you, Dan.
Well, I appreciate that.
Do we want to, before we table it, just,
Public comment.
Are there any members of the public present who would like to make a comment on this application? Seeing none, staff recommends a motion to open and close public
Motion.
comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And date uncertain?
Carried to a date uncertain.
Cool. All right, any commissioners want to make a motion?
Motion. Stankham.
Second.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Gunther?
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong?
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
Commissioner Amatuzo?
Aye.
Commissioner Sankamp?
Aye.
Commissioner Grieg is absent. Commissioner Sakong is Commissioner Sakong is here. Commissioner Blazak is absent. Vice Chair Gutierrez.
Aye.
And Chairman Gordon.
Thank you, Dan. Aye.
All right, there are 7 votes in favor to table the application to a date uncertain.
Thank you, Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Right.
I Venmoed you by accident, and she Venmoed me as well. I saw that. Okay, just want to make that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries.
All right.
Okay, so back to old business. There's no business like old business. Case
Everything old is That's good.
H-23-0188, applicant Stephen Joseph Esquire on behalf of 445 Jersey Avenue SPE LLC owner. The address is 445 Jersey Avenue in the Van Vorst Park Historic District. The application is for a certificate of appropriateness for the conversion of the former St. Mark's Church, an altered contributing building constructed in 1888, and rectory building into residential units, including but not limited to site work, interior renovations, facade restoration, and second floor addition visible from public right-of-way. This is a recommendation to the Jersey City Zoning Board of Adjustment and was carried from the regular HPC meeting of September 16th, 2024.
All right, good evening, everyone. Stephen Joseph, Casano Quigley, Chirami. We are back. We got a lot of great feedback last time. I think everybody, including myself and the applicant and the whole team, is very excited for this project. We've incorporated a lot of the comments that we got from everybody. The renderings that were done were not good, so we redid them, but we didn't have them in advance of the hearing, so we're going to have to enter those as an exhibit. When we get to those, we'll enter them, but I'll just let Will take it away and walk you through the changes.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thank you. State and spell your name for the record.
sure. It's William Weckenman. Last name is spelled Weckenmann. Okay. We were able to incorporate all of the feedback that was discussed at the last meeting. They're what I believe to be a significant improvement to the project. And I'll just walk you through some of the changes that were made on a sheet-by-sheet basis. Starting with the site plan, the only change, well, the most significant change was to the rear yard. The setback of the rear yard setback was adjusted slightly, and we are maintaining remnants of the foundation wall in the rear yard. So that's designated here as with this white band here. We also adjusted the rear yard of the addition to the vestry building. So the rear facade of that building is set back about 18 inches from the face of the church. So it gives it a little bit better of a hierarchy compared to the previous application. The other change that was made was the dormers on the main roof of the church were slid back an additional 2 feet. And the fourth floor of the vestry building was also set back an additional 18 inches. It was not directly visible, but the view of this addition was minimized as a result of the changes. So you'll see that on some of the later sheets. Starting with the floor plan, again, the changes to the rear yard, you can see it at a slightly larger scale here. With both the church as well as the vestry building. Other than that, the layouts are generally the same. Same is true with the upper floors. Those changes are carried throughout the rest of the building. On the third floor, again, these dormers are slid in a little bit, and I haven't. You'll see that in the sightline drawing as well as the front elevation. I hatched in the area of visibility around the dormers, so you can see it a little bit more clearly. And then, as I mentioned, the fourth floor here was set back further as well. The front elevation remains largely unchanged, but one of the other changes that we incorporated was the protective glazing that we were providing in front of the stained glass has been relocated to the interior of the church. So that's been removed, as well as the grills over the rose window here. Also, it was discovered since we completed the previous drawing set, one of the panels has been removed on the, one of the protective panels that was over this window has been removed. And it turns out there's decorative wood trim around the window. So that will be restored and repaired and repainted. So no change to the historic stained glass windows or the trim around them. Sorry, one other thing I wanted to point out. It's a little bit difficult when you look at the sightline drawing in section. So we mapped out the area of visibility here with respect to the dormers. So basically, if you're standing across the street looking up at the building, nothing below this hatched area is visible. It's the same for both sides. It's a little tricky because when you look at the sightline drawing, you have this angled wall here. So when you look at it in section, it doesn't really read clearly. So we wanted to map that out on elevation so it was a little bit clearer as to what's visible. On the rear elevation, the balconies were removed and the facade was simplified. And some of the openings on the ground floor were modified as well, just to have it align a little bit better from floor to floor. So this rear facade has been simplified, and the balconies have been removed. One of the other key changes that we made was to the fenestration of the dormers. Previously, we had rectangular windows with the fiber cement siding. We took a closer look at the form of the windows as well as the materiality of the dormer. And we felt that the square windows, the rectangular windows, in relation to the windows below were a little bit awkward. So we changed the shape of the window to be an archtop window. And the idea was sort of inspired by religious architecture. When you look at cathedrals, for instance, you have a hierarchy of fenestration. So, for instance, in a Gothic cathedral, you might have an archway that separates the aisle from the nave, and then the windows, the clear story above that, are a similarly proportioned opening, but perhaps smaller in scale, different rhythm. So that's exactly what we did here. This window is it's almost a half scale of the windows below it. And the rhythm is not only, it's aligned with the windows below, And you can see that here with the center lines.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Before, if you're going to move beyond this image, would you mind, I know we had some discussion about the material that you were using. I think you had some type of board and batten at
That's
that
right.
level. What is it now, and what is the roof of the dormer?
It's going to be a slate roof. So the roof of the dormer, the church, and the steeple will be like a faux slate, a Da Vinci product, which is indicated on a later slide. The material for the dormer itself has been changed to a GFRC panel, or a concrete, glass fiber concrete panel, which is it's a contemporary material. It's very simple in terms of the detailing, but it's a masonry material, so it relates to the brick, the masonry, the stone below. So everything is, even though it's a new addition, a new material, it's still a masonry material. And those changes are reflected on the north side as well. No updates here other than what was previously discussed. Same with the sightline diagram. So again, you can see what I meant by it being a little hard to read how this looks in elevation. So, again, just confirming that these dormers won't be visible from directly across the street. Oops. Sorry.
Accompaniment there.
We also included another exhibit looking at the visibility of the dormer from York Street. So you can see it's roughly two windows are visible. But as you walk up and down York Street, different portions of the elevation are visible. So we mapped that out up here. This area here is generally the width, if you're looking head on, what would be visible. But as you move up and down the street, these sections of the elevation would also be visible in smaller slivers. So it's a little bit of a projection as opposed to a direct elevation.
I really appreciate that detail.
Thank you.
Sure. Sure.
So here are the material changes. This is a close-up of the slate roof. We went with a darker color to contrast from the stone below, as well as from the material for the addition. The dormers. And then we have the close-up of the GFRC panel here. So it's more of a natural material. There's natural variation in tone across the panels, so it has a little bit more visual interest than, say, a flat fiber cement or a metal panel. So we felt it was a much better substitution. We did update the window details, as I discussed previously. The only change was to the front facade, where we're relocating the window behind the stained glass, the new window behind the stained glass. And then finally, we have updates to this rendering, as well as 3 additional renderings that were produced.
So this will be an exhibit. Will, if you could just give the page numbers for each of these.
Sure, it's sheet A18, A19, A20, and A21.
Thank you.
So
I don't think so. A1. Yeah. So this will be A1.
I don't have any written down. Yeah.
A1. Thank you. sent it earlier today, actually.
So again, change to the rose window. And then, you can see how these were, how the bulk of this addition was pushed back. Previously, it had lined up roughly with when you looked at it from this view, it had lined up with the cornice, but we slid it back further to help further minimize it. And then the same thing with the dormers on the side. They are still obliquely visible, but they're set back further to reduce their impact from the front elevation. This is a new rendering. This is just another view of the project from the opposite angle, looking up. And then we did a rendering directly in front of the church. And we probably had about 10 revisions of this rendering, going back and forth to make sure that the camera positioning was correct, that the height of the camera was correct, and that the distance from the building was mapped correctly. So we spent a great deal of time on this, and we wanted to include this view specifically as it relates to the dormers on the main church. And then finally, we have the rendering of the rear facade. We didn't show these walls would be taller. We're thinking probably somewhere between 4 feet above grade. But in order to showcase the elevation, we reduced the height of the wall. So, and that concludes my testimony. Thank you.
Do any commissioners have any questions? Want to go back in the plans to look at something?
Well, it's greatly improved. No question about that. I really like a lot of the changes that you made in the sensitivity, the unification of the materials. The rear facades look great. The removal of the balconies makes a huge difference. Appreciate that you brought the dormers back. Mm-hmm. Is there any hardship in bringing them back further so that they're not visible?
Not visible at all?
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible to have them be completely. It's just the nature of the block where you have the shorter buildings next to this taller structure.
I only ask because you can see the difference in your own renderings. When they're not visible, the silhouette of the structure shines. When those dormers appear, it's a whole different structure. It just feels very different. And if it's possible and it's not a hardship on the inside, why not pull them back? I think you pulled them back 2 feet. And how long are these dormers?
I don't know the total length offhand, but it's the depth of them is related to the interior spaces that are within the roof.
Right.
So it's.
But I'm saying they're extensive dormers along the roof. So I'm just, if it's possible, I would suggest you consider bringing them back even further. And the other question I had is about the coloration that you've chosen on the front, especially around the windows. It almost looks like a bright white. And I'm not sure, is that a historical reference in terms of the color usage on the front?
I'm sorry, which?
So everything that surrounds a window, I believe it's brick.
Right. This is a white brick.
Oh, the brick itself
Yeah.
is that color.
Mm-hmm.
So the rendering is making it appear, bright white. So it's probably not.
I
as
think
white.
the rendering implies that it's clean.
Yeah, it just, the contrast seemed unusual for a church facade.
Sure.
So I was just asking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. You can see it better here. It's more of like like a tan color.
I'm good. Yeah, I was just wondering, I thought maybe you were painting it a color, so.
No.
But otherwise, all your other changes, the fenestration on those interior views, really great. And the moving towards the cementous look, the stone look, I think is a great improvement in the project.
Thank you.
Thanks for including our comments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, similarly, I just want to say that to me, this application is a demonstration of exactly how this process should play out. You know, you come with a project, you deal with a difficult existing structure that's funky and weird, and you're inserting a program that wasn't original, and yet still you came with a strong idea that I think resonated with the commission, and you know, I think we gave you good feedback, and the fact that the project is so demonstrably improved for it, to me, like this is the reason why this commission exists, like applications like this. So I just want to commend the applicant for improving the project and making it feel like improvement, as opposed to a series of compromises to make, like, you know, a commission happy. I personally, looking at the plan and seeing the layout of the living spaces within those dormers, I completely agree with Commissioner Gucciardo's comment that it would be better if those dormers could be pulled back. But seeing those plans, I also understand the hesitation.
Sure. I think too, if there's any interior changes to the project in the configuration of those rooms, that once we get into the construction, you know, before we finalize the framing of the roof and of those rooms, I think we would consider stepping it back further.
That's weird.
Sorry,
Hang on.
let me rephrase that, because so one of the things that I suggest is that when the framing for these additions gets underway, to do a mock-up and to set it up, you know, frame it out so you can see what it's actually going to look like before they go and they construct the whole entire addition. So I think what my recommendation would be is to lay out the framing for the addition for these dormers, and then if I do think we may have some wiggle room in the field to push it back further. If you'd like me to identify a dimension now.
Sorry, are you? But what would be discoverable in field? Like what the space feels like from the inside, or what the dormer would appear like from the outside?
Well, I think, you know, when you get into the construction of these spaces, of these rooms, there's a lot of realization as to what the space actually feels like once you're inside it. And I was merely suggesting that if there's any opportunity to push it back further, that we would consider it.
You know, it's funny. I was about to say that I would be comfortable voting on this application with the dimensions as shown. But if you think that there is wiggle room on those dimensions, in my mind, those are dimensions that are fully anticipatable. I'm sorry for that's not a word, but those are conditions that you can anticipate without starting construction. I mean, you could tape out dimensions, you know, on a floor somewhere. You can do a rendering. You could do plan studies with furniture. In my mind, that based on if there is room to push those ends of the dormer back, I would love to request that you do so prior to going into construction.
Sure.
And
That's
framing.
something you would feel comfortable as a condition along the lines of, like, the applicant shall continue to work with staff regarding
Yes.
visibility of the dormers prior to the submission of construction documents?
Could you repeat that?
I'm so sorry, Bridget. I literally said the word documents and when I'm talking way too fast. Would the commission consider a condition, something along the lines of the applicant shall continue to work with HPC staff regarding the visibility of the dormers prior to the submission of construction documents? And that way they can look at their interiors,
Yeah.
see if they can pull it back.
Sure.
If
I
they
don't
can't-
see what incentive they would have to pull it back any further. But yes, if the applicant determines that
It's
there is additional shortening that could be achieved, I would be happy to let staff weigh in on its appropriateness.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you for a lovely application.
Thank you. Apologies for the confusion.
Yeah, and the windows, moving the the windows you're adding to the inside and discovering that detail, that means everything to us as well. I mean, that's a big change from a historic preservation point of view, so. yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions, comments from the commission? Okay, hearing none, do you want to move to open public comment? Okay. Are there any members of the public present tonight who would like to speak regarding this application? You can approach the public comment mic. Staff sees no members of the public approaching the microphone and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I have Sandcamp and then I have Gunther. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move to staff comments. Austin, you kind of summed up all my staff comments, right? We have a hard building that has sat here for quite some time and needed some attention. And we think that the proposal in front of the commission tonight is a interesting way to address it. It really follows most of the guidance that we've given previous applicants regarding church rehabilitation, specifically into residential properties, and how to most efficiently utilize that space. And we think the applicant is doing that here. And as staff, we're happy with the application and happy to recommend it for approval tonight, as well as a recommendation to the zoning board for approval as well. We do, as usual, recommend that you adopt it with conditions. I do have conditions in the staff report. Most of them are standard conditions. We do have 3 additional ones. The first is that, and I'm sure the 3 of you are going to physically be in pain as I say this out loud, that the front roof area of the vestry building is not to be used as a roof deck and or for leisure purposes. It is not labeled as a roof deck. It is not to be used as a roof deck. You can't do it in a historic district. It has to be set back 10 feet. Just want to make it super, super clear on the record that that is not to be utilized as a roof deck. That all exterior lighting should be downcast in nature and not exceed 1 foot candle at the property line. The 1 foot candle comes from the lighting ordinance. And then all proposed intercoms or similar installations that may be on the front facade shall only be installed into the mortar joints or and not the masonry itself. This is something that we have seen kind of pop up on some of these larger multi-unit buildings. If they're not, I believe this one has the proposed location on the plans, but just to clarify that those are going into the mortar joints. And sometimes that requires a slightly larger base on these to make sure we get it into the mortar joints. We're okay with that. We'll work that out. Other than that, we have standard conditions and the condition that I read into the record. Are there any questions for staff? Okay. On that note, staff recommends a motion to approve the COA with conditions and recommend approval to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Just for the record, the applicant accepts all the conditions.
Also, I have one more thing for the record. I did not do this at the beginning. Commissioner Gunther, you were not here at the original presentation of this, but you have confirmed to me that you have reviewed the video from the last meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you're comfortable with her voting on the application?
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, that being said, if anyone wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right. All right, Commissioner Sakong.
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin.
Aye.
Commissioner Amatuzo.
Aye.
Commissioner Sandcamp.
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther.
Aye.
Commissioner Grieg is absent. Commissioner Blazak is absent. Vice Chair Gucciardo.
Aye.
And Chairman Gordon.
Aye.
Right, there are 7 votes in favor, none against, and no abstentions. The COA and recommendation for approval to the zoning board is approved.
Thank you guys so much. This one was a lot of fun. So, thank you.
All right, so it's just about 9 o'clock, so I think we have to make a decision about whether we're going to be able to call both the remaining cases. It looks to me like we can probably get through the next application within 30 minutes. Maggie, do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll try to get through all these the new business. We may have to stop at some point during 234 Montgomery if we go to 10 o'clock and carry that one. And
yeah,
then,
so the what the bylaws say and what the commission's practice is that we don't start anything new after 9:30.
Right.
If the commission's comfortable, we can, if we hit 10 o'clock while reviewing 234, we can either wrap it up and carry it, or we can finish hearing the application. It is very much the chairman's call. But I agree with you. I think those two cases are the absolute maximum that we will get to this evening.
Yeah, I mean,
Stephen, can you turn off that mic? Are the absolute maximum that we'll get to this evening.
we always put on here that a curfew of 10 p.m. is strictly adhered to, and I would like to strictly adhere to
That is
it.
fine. That is the chairman's decision. Right. So that being said,
Yeah, that being said, so I'm going to call case
okay. So hold on. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we're going to carry the demolition case because we don't think we're going to get to it. And then are we going to take a chance and start 234?
Yeah, we're going to start 234.
Okay. For what it's worth, I do think that we will be able to begin 234 before 9:30.
Yeah. Which demo case was it that's remaining? Was it
The Morris Canal. in
okay?
Central Railroad.
So we're not going to get to Morris Canal, which is B-24-1338. That one is going to have to be carried.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah, and we'll carry that to the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is November 18th.
very good. All right. So calling new business case H23-163, applicant Stephen Joseph Esquire on behalf of Timothy and Roberta Karcher, owners. Address is 659 Jersey Avenue in the Hamilton Park Historic District. Application is for a certificate of appropriateness for interior renovation and construction of a rear yard addition at a contributing altered transitional Italianate row house constructed circa 1870. And this is a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Great. Good evening, Stephen Joseph Castano Quigley Trami for the applicant. It's late in the night, so we'll try to get right into it. This is a rear yard addition application like this commission has seen many, many times. There has been other certificates of no effect that have been approved by HPC, and I think my client's done a particularly good job with some of those applications. Let's get our architect sworn in, and we'll get through the plans. So.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth?
Yes.
The whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Sorry.
State and spell your full name.
Ali Qureshi. Ali is A-L-I. Qureshi is Q-U-R-E-S-H-I.
Q-U-R-E-S-H-I?
Yes.
All right, Ali, if you
I don't want to interrupt. Sorry, Meg, I'm accused on this item.
Yes.
and the applicant's comfortable proceeding. Ali, if you could just give us quickly your educational background, how long you've been licensed, and confirm your license is current and in good standing this evening.
Sure. I have a bachelor's of architecture degree and also a master's of architecture degree. And I've been licensed architect in New Jersey since 1996.
And your license is current and good standing this evening?
Yes.
I would ask the board accept Ali's qualifications.
Yep. The commission accepts Mr. Qureshi's qualifications as an architect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ali, if you could walk us through the plans, please.
So we are putting a small addition in the rear yard. Let me see if I can work with this.
You're welcome to look at this if you like.
On the left, you see existing conditions floor plan. It's the one level above the basement level or a lower level. And in the middle, you see the floor plan of the middle level with the little addition to the existing kitchen, and plus a stair which is going down in the basement on the ground level. Maybe I should move to the elevation to explain a little bit more. On the left is the existing conditions rear elevation of the building, and on the right side is the proposed elevation. So the top two floors have brick and white windows, which we're gonna keep, and then we're gonna use the existing deck on the second level as a terrace. So the new, the railing and the balusters will be new on there. And the lower two portions are the one we changed. Actually, it's the first level above the grade level, which shows the expansion of the existing kitchen, and also the stair, which is leading to a door to the rear of the house. We have a few samples of the materials we're going to use.
Ali, before you walk in that, can you just give us approximate square footage of the addition and the deck, please?
It's roughly 67 square feet. It sticks out. It's 15 feet wide by 4 feet 6 inches.
Great. And Ali, if you want to talk about the materials one by one, and then I'll pass around the samples we have as you mention them.
Sure. So these tall windows, tall new windows are going to have a black frame, and this whole addition is going to have black AZEK finish. And the existing building on the ground level and the first level is going to be painted with the green paint.
Oh, thank you.
And new door to the first level is going to be the same finish as the existing level, existing door on the ground level. And we have this is the tracks for the terrace, and this one is the railing and the balusters. And on the lower level, we are keeping the existing door and the window as it is. So the only new windows are on the ground level. And they will be all tempered glass.
Ali, the commissioner is holding up a piece of what I believe is the decking for the terrace area.
For the
right?
terrace,
Yes.
got it.
It's a floor of the second.
And Ali, the commissioner is now holding up the railing sample, correct?
Yes, this will be the railing and the balusters.
Thank you.
Do we have anything else to add, Ali, or does that conclude your?
That's pretty much it. I think this house already went through the Historic Commission approval for the front facade. I'm not sure when, but it was approved.
That might have been a certificate of note.
2019, yeah, we can get to that during staff comments. It's nothing bad, just no point talking about it now.
Can you just clarify something for me?
Sure.
On sheet A20, the fascia of the addition says the color. The material is meant to be the AZEK panels, colored black. But then when I go to A30, in the enlarged section, it says it's a hardy plank. That's the color gray. And then the paint sample that's being passed around says it's Narragansett green. Narragansett green. I don't know how to spell Narragansett.
Narragansett.
I was just wondering if you can clarify what's the design intent. So I'll have Ollie confirm, but the intention is the green. There were several changes in the color, and it looks like it just wasn't, the old colors weren't taken off the plan, but it's the green is the intent. And it's meant to be a hardy plank or AZAC or?
For the addition, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be a AZAC.
Thank you for the clarification.
One more thing is for the stair leading to the first level, we're going to have these kind of recessed lighting so they don't shine light to the neighbors. So it's going to be very indirect type of lighting. And these will be the treads for the stair on the right hand side.
Are there any other questions? Comments? Want to go back on the plans, look at anything? Okay, hearing none. Should we move to public comment? All right, if there are any members of the public in attendance who would like to speak regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic. Staff sees none and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Go to staff comments quickly. All right, so like the applicant and Stephen alluded to, there's been quite a bit of work at this property over the past couple of years. This is really the only thing the commission has seen because everything else was approved under a cone, including a pretty massive facade restoration that was approved in 2019. So this is just following in the footsteps of work to this property, adding a small addition to the rear of the property. I will be honest with all of you, if this did not require a variance, we would have approved it as a cone. It is not visible from the public right of way. It is not increasing building coverage because it is stilted. And it follows the existing paradigm of the block. It is a very small scale addition that we do not think is going to cause an adverse effect on the historic resource or the historic district. And we do recommend that you all approve it. With the conditions in the staff report, which are actually just standard conditions.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
Commissioner, I'm sorry,
that are
before
set
you,
out.
I just want to say for the record, the applicant has reviewed and does agree to the standard conditions in the staff report. Sorry.
So I'll reiterate my motion to approve with conditions as set forth by staff.
Second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Amatuzzo.
Aye.
Commissioner Sandcamp.
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong.
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin.
Aye.
Commissioner Griega is absent. Commissioner Gunther is recused. Commissioner Blazak is absent. Vice Chair Gucciarda.
Aye.
And Chairman Gordon.
Aye.
There are 6 votes in favor, none against, and no abstentions. The COA with conditions and recommendation to the Zoning Board of Adjustment is approved.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Good sit down. And arguably in record time.
We're motivated.
Taking that curfew real seriously. All right, want to call the next and last case.
Yep. So this will be new business 9B. The case is H-24-0177. Applicant is Tom Lean Esquire on behalf of 234 Montgomery LLC owner. The address being 234 Montgomery Street in the Van Voorst Park Historic District. Application is for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a full-height addition, front facade restoration, and interior renovation of a key contributing fire-damaged Greek Revival townhouse constructed circa 1850.
Still loading.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Tom Lean of Connell Foley here on behalf of the applicant owner. As stated, the application before you is a request for a certificate of appropriateness for 243 Montgomery Street. The existing building is a two-story, two-unit building. However, the building was extensively damaged during a fire. The owner did come before this board seeking a demolition permit, which was denied. So the applicant has gone back to the drawing board here and is proposing to restore the facade and rebuild a rear addition to the building. It would include 6 residential units. This is a townhouse. Normally 4 units would be permitted under our zoning code. However, they are using the affordable housing overlay, which allows them to ignore the density standard, and that increases to 6 units. One of those will be an affordable unit. I do have 2 witnesses this evening, Tony Aiello, who's our architect, and Blevin Lawson. Mr. Lawson is our structural engineer, and he does have to head home to try and catch a train to Philadelphia. I am going to have Mr. Aiello sworn in and go over the restoration of the facade. If there are any questions for our structural engineer, I would request that they be asked now so he can make his train.
Does he have anything to present or just questions regarding? Okay. So while you're looking at that, I just want to note for a record for the commission. In the application materials tonight, there was a copy of structural plans regarding bracing of the front facade. So that would be what any questions are in regard to. If any of you want to pull it up and just take a look. They did allude to it, but we are keeping the front facade of this building similarly to the adjacent building, 236 Montgomery. Both of those were damaged during a fire. So if prior to us swearing, if you guys could just pull that up and take a look so that we can help him catch his train. Bless you. Sure. Yeah.
Mr. Aiello, you are... yep, sorry.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And if you could state and spell your full name.
Sure. My name is Antonio Aiello. First name Antonio, Antonio. Last name Aiello, Aiello.
And Mr. Aiello, you are licensed as an architect in the state of New Jersey?
Correct. I've been registered in the state of New Jersey since March of 2007.
And your license is current?
It is, yes.
Have you testified before this board before?
Previously, not in a long time, but yes.
I'd like to submit Mr. Aiello as an expert.
Yep, the commission accepts the qualifications of Mr. Aiello as an architect.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time tonight. I will start with the facade and the facade materials.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off again. I'm just trying to make it straight. Does anyone have any questions on the structural plans? Okay, from the staff comments on them were that we agreed with them, right? And that any changes would have to be reflected in construction documents. We all good? And okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you, Bobby.
Sorry to cut you off, Tony.
Drive safely, of course.
You're free to go.
I'm going to hand this off. I'll start over here if that's okay. Just pass it around. What we are doing for the bracing of the structure, we are providing temporary footings internally and externally in order to provide steel kickers on an angle to support the facade. We are bolting steel members on the inside and outside. We're bolting them together through the window opening so that we're not touching any of the brick. This way we can maintain the facade as much as possible. Once the rest of the building internally is reconstructed, we will be able to then remove all of this shoring and structural bracing and leave the rest of the building intact because it'll be tied back to the building as a whole. As mentioned, this project, there was a fire. Most of the project was damaged. We are maintaining the facade. From the facade back, we are proposing a brand new structure from basement to 3rd floor, as well as a small bulkhead and roof deck facing the rear. The building is located approximately almost at the exact middle of the block. Has a couple of 4 and 5-story structures on one side, church, a few doors over to the west. The building itself is only 3 stories. We are maintaining that 3 stories total. As mentioned, 6 total units. The ground floor units will be barrier-free, as well as the 3-bedroom will accommodate the affordable housing along the rear of the building. The rest are all two-bedroom units along the back, 1-bedroom den with a possible 2nd bedroom along the front units. Top floor roof has the small bulkhead, which we will pitch in order to minimize the amount of structure on the roof, and then a small deck in the back. Here we have the facade, the existing and the proposed. We're looking to maintain the proposed, the existing facade as much as possible, repairing and repointing the brick, the lintels and headers, new wood windows throughout all the openings. The first floor unit will have access to the front door as it exists. The rest of the building will be accessed from the side. We have an existing side yard that exists now. We will be maintaining it, and that's where we provide the main entrance for the rest of the building with the central staircase. The cornice itself is actually very simplistic, very small itself. A majority of the detail is actually the brick. When you look at it, if I can zoom in a little more here so you can see it. As you can see here, this lower portion of the cornice is actually all brick that, again, we will be repointing, rejoining, and adjusting and correcting as necessary, and then refinishing and repainting the small 2-tier cornice section on the facade itself. You can also see it here in the photos. The cornice itself is pretty small overall, and creates a nice little reveal in order to provide a shadow line, and then the rest of it is all brickwork beneath it. Let's see here. I have here the new windows will be same as the previous. We're going to be doing 6/6 wood windows. The rear windows will probably be a different material and color. The rest of the building, the side and rear, will be fiber cement panel system with a simple siding and corner detail, corner trim vertically. The rear facade will have both windows and a Juliet balcony for the rear yard access. For the first, for the whole building, will be from the side yard. As you can see here from the side elevation, we had cement siding on both the sides, and then create a hierarchy of where the entrances and where their staircase will land with a cement panel. Again, still the fiber cement non-combustible system for the building. The rear Juliet balconies will have a cable railing system. I have here a detail of the gate at the front, which will provide access to the building itself. The front facade will have a sconce light next to the door, as well as a small recessed light because the door is slightly recessed. I have here additional materials as shown from the material board there. And then here is the diagram showing that the bulkhead is short enough and pulled back enough that it's not fully visible from across the street. Then we have here all our detail for both the existing and proposed facades on the side and front, brick molding, and how we're going to be implementing the windows into the brick system, as well as the rest of the facade for the building. And then just for everyone's understanding, here is the structural as we had submitted it, where we will be proposing all of the steel in line with the window opening so we can bolt through and not touch the brick, keep it as untouched as possible along the front facade. In the back, we have a small kicker to stabilize it at the foundation system while we build the basement. But once the building is framed out and solidified, we'll be able to tie in. It'll be safe and sound all over again. And that should conclude my presentation.
Okay, are there questions from the commission? Want to go back and look at something specifically in the plans? It's
The building, you're saying you're maintaining the facade, but everything behind the facade is new construction.
That is correct, yes.
And what was the building made out of to begin with? Was it a brick building?
Stephen, is your mic on? It's not about hearing it. We can all hear you. It's just the recording.
Was it a brick building?
It was a brick building with framed interiors. wood
Okay, so
interiors.
my first question is why the hardy plank sides, which are visible from the public right-of-way?
Just to differentiate the new structure from the old. We just had a simple siding system so that we could, rather than carry the brick, we wanted to show that that was a new structure going across, and then create a different hierarchy at the entrance itself with the panels instead of the siding, and instead of just replicating the brick.
Not to jump in, the side is wood siding now. It's wood clap.
I thought it was.
It's wood clap. Yeah, on the additional images, there's like a pretty clear photo where it's I think it's like a 9-inch reveal.
No, I'm sorry. It's brick along the property where it touches the other building. I'm sorry about that. It's to the west. It's brick, but that's because it's just adjacent to the other structure with the party wall.
So what I'm trying to get at is pre-existing conditions and what your solution is. So on the west wall, which was brick, you're saying it was brick?
Staying brick only because
Staying
it
brick
abuts
there.
the existing structure. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So that's staying brick as previous, right?
Correct.
And on the east side, I think Maggie has pointed out that that was already a clapboard wall?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, apologies for that.
Your west elevation on sheet A301, in fact, shows that return as stucco, not brick. So, I agree. Yeah, you see that sliver on the.
I have it masonry. We can leave it exposed brick rather than do brick instead of cladding it in stucco.
I think the brick is the.
The brick is the
preferable-
way to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you all? So I think that should be an amendment. Can you also?
Just gonna write that note on my phone if you don't mind. Apologies.
Can you also clarify what the material is on that sort of stair return zone in the middle?
It's also a fiber cement, but it's a panel system rather than a siding. So we'll be doing a panel system with aluminum reveals.
Got it. Because again, sorry, I'm just pointing out. I don't do this just to be a jerk. I do this because these are, on the record documents. On A401 on the section drawing, it points it out as scored stucco. So again, I think a GFRC.
No, that should absolutely not be stucco. That is
It's a
cement panel
panelized
system.
cement panel.
Correct, as per the.
And what's the
material board.
color of that?
Sorry, you're talking over one another and I cannot get that.
Sorry. What's the color of the cement panel?
Cement panel I have as gray slate.
Got
for
it.
the siding, and then pewter for the panel systems.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to chime in on the same topic. That side of that building is about exposed for about 3 feet because the building adjacent to it, as you show in your plan, is stepped back about 3 feet. And that 3 feet that's exposed is currently asphalt siding. But I don't know what's under it. There's probably a historic siding underneath. I don't know if you guys explored. Is there, Maggie, did you see something there? Like,
So
you're
did
saying
I
there's
see
clapboard under
something?
it?
Did I see something there? No. As of Thursday, Dan was pretty insistent that was wood siding. I did not make it back out there to confirm myself.
Wait, it's wood frame, yeah.
No, I meant no, like that was wood clap there. It could be. I did not see it myself.
I walk by it like every day for a long time. It's a historic asphalt shingle. It's probably about a 60-year-old asphalt shingle that is made to look like brick.
If you look
Wait, I was about to say that. No, we're
But
looking.
maybe
the current picture,
now they've torn some of the material off.
you look at the current picture and you zoom in, you could clearly see it's clapboard.
Okay.
I think we're talking about two different sides
Okay.
of the building.
No, we're talking about the same
The
thing.
west
the west-
exposure, the 3 or 4 feet that's of the side of the building, that has the asphalt shingles, you could see where they are
Yes.
missing.
Yes,
It is
correct.
clearly clapboard.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay, so, yes, like I was saying, I didn't know what was under it, but there was asphalt shingle and
Yes.
clearly then clapboard under it. I agree.
So I guess we're going back to clapboard again. I was so certain
Yeah.
it was brick, but obviously I was mistaken.
I mean, I personally wouldn't recommend that that wall be clapboard, but
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly reasonable for that to be a masonry wall, considering it's a party wall, and we can address the historic material on the other exposed visible right-of-way. Could be a good compromise.
It makes sense.
Yes.
I wasn't trying to suggest what it should be. I was only saying what it was.
Yes. And we can add a condition to have the plans be revised to reflect the current materials. Are there any other? Yeah.
Yeah, question about the gate that gives you access to the rest of the units.
Yes.
Could you just, it looks like there's a mesh over it or some other kind of material. It's not just a wrought iron gate.
Yes, it's a steel frame with a steel mesh that we're proposing on that one, just for safety purposes, so somebody can't reach in and unlock it.
You know, for a historic facade, it looks quite industrial. Is there any way that it could at least have some historic treatment?
Yeah, we can definitely look into it.
And still provide the security that you're looking for?
Sure. The reasoning behind this was because it was proposed for the new use of the building, so we were proposing a new, more of a newer look for the gate itself. But we have no problems redesigning it to show something more historic, something more, in tune with what you would see for the railings, let's say,
For
in
the-
the-
for
in
a
the
front
area.
facade.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And the bulkhead that's depicted in the drawings, that's not visible from the public right-of-way?
From across the street, it's not visible. It's only 9 feet tall, and it's set back approximately. Let me see if I have that dimension. Bear with me. I do not, but it's centered on the building, so it's easily 25, 26 feet back from the front facade.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there additional comments, questions? Want to look at any part of the plans?
The facade door surround, are you using the existing?
We're going to be doing a new door to match the existing.
You're going to match the existing, and it would be wood as well?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are your 6/6 wood windows in the front, are they true divided? Will they be true divided? Or will they have grills on them?
We were going to do grills.
And the grills would be where, on the interior of the window or the exterior?
I think they were proposing it on the exterior.
We're only approving them on the exterior.
Yeah.
I'm just going to cut. We don't do interior grills.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the conclusion of that?
We don't do interior grills, so.
No,
no.
sometimes the grills are between the panes.
Yeah,
you know,
but
the-
then we'll have the
by
applied
window.
simulated on top of that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I do have one question on the side where the return is, and we're looking to do masonry.
if we do have to go with masonry, are we permitted to use a thin brick only so that we're not encroaching onto somebody else's property?
Are you on the property line where use of a full brick would push you over the property line? We have approved, the commission has approved a thin brick on non-primary facades in that instance before. And in this,
Thank you.
in this case, staff would be okay with that. That is the only scenario we've really ever permitted thin brick. All right. Any other questions? Do we want to open public? Okay. Are there any members of the public present who would like to speak regarding this application? Okay. Staff sees no members of the public present and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we want to move into staff comments on this? Okay. So, like the applicant stated, this is essentially a continued case from the demolition hearing that we had last summer, following the fire that occurred at this building and spread to 236. We were able to, and I say we because it was the city, were able to stabilize the facade of this building and 236 so that they could be reincorporated into a future development, which is exactly what we see here. We are, for lack of a better term, fortunate that while we did lose the vast majority of this building, this front facade does have a significant amount of historic fabric on it that makes the retention and restoration of elements of this facade relatively straightforward, right? We have the door frame, we have the windows, this is, in staff's perspective, relatively straightforward. The rest of the building is consistent with the bulk standards for the historic district, which is why the applicant is able to use the affordable housing overlay in this sense. This is the first application the commission has seen with the affordable housing overlay, but it is essentially what they described, right? You throw out the density standard, provided that you are following standards set in the affordable housing overlay to provide affordable housing. In this case, they were able to fit 6 units in here, with one of the units being an affordable unit. All of that, the specifics there, are worked out with the Division of Affordable Housing, set in a contractor agreement that they will work out with the applicant. We do have it in conditions that if something changes on this building, as a result of that, they will have to come back, kind of like how we treat a franchise ordinance, right? When we've had applications come to us where they need to get a franchise agreement through ordinance, if something changes, they have to come back to us, and we're going to treat this the same way. That being said, we don't think that there's going to be an adverse effect on the character of the district or the resource as a result of approving this application. And we do recommend that the commission approve a COA with conditions. So we have conditions that were read into the record. We have conditions in the staff report. Most of them are standard conditions. There are a couple that we did add. So the first is that the applicant shall work with HPC staff to retain and possibly reuse the existing historic wood lap siding on the eastern facade of the building where feasible. I will just note, I do not necessarily think that this is feasible, right? The building was pretty significantly fire damaged. We're going to see what we can recover. If not, we're going to match the reveal to make sure that we're at least keeping it visually consistent. The second one that we added is that front roof deck on this. Tony, can you just go to the floor plan with the roof deck really quick?
Absolutely.
So yeah, perfect. So this front roof deck here, which you can see on the front, the street facing side of that center staircase, is being used for mechanical purposes. And we are just adding a condition that it is not to be used for leisure purposes, right? They technically do have enough space where they could set something back 10 feet. They elected to put it on the back of that staircase, which I'm sure their neighbors are very thankful for. But that means that without HPC approval, we can't use the front side of that roof for leisure purposes without coming back to the board. And then we have the conditions that were spoken about. So I kind of summed the two up as the applicant shall revise the plans to accurately reflect the current and proposed materials for the building, including but not limited to the eastern and western facades. So we'll get those revised for construction documents to reflect the current condition and proposed condition with some combination of thin brick and masonry on the western facade, which is that party wall, and then reflect accurate materials on that are being proposed for the building on the eastern facade. Are there any questions for staff?
What was your take on my recommendation about readdressing the gate entrance?
That's fine. So we do typically see more modern gates in this scenario proposed. This one is more industrial than we typically see. I don't think we should recreate a historic gate. Typically, most commonly we see just a straight linear bar with kind of like a half circle mesh around where that handle is so no one can reach through. That's the most typical condition, but if you guys would like to come up with something other than that.
I just want to make sure, is it more of a perforated metal and not a mesh?
Yeah, it's more of a perforated metal, yes.
I think mesh is.
Yeah, that is correct. Then that's a good distinction.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
At your discretion, yeah.
Sure. And all of that would be expected to be reflected on the construction documents. We're gonna put the blah in the transcript. I've done it so many times tonight. I'm running out. Anyway. All right. Are there any other questions for staff?
I had a question about, it's for the architect. I only see one egress stair. Is there a reason why there's only one egress stair required?
Yeah, only one is required. You're only required one egress stair for buildings that are 3 stories or under and less than 4 units per floor.
What's the likelihood of another fire, right?
Less than, what is it? 3 units?
3
3
stories
or
or
less?
and 4 units or less per floor. So you can technically do a 12-unit building, 3 stories tall, with a single exit.
Huh.
The first unit in the front technically has 2.
Yes. Technically, they all have 2. Because it's a 3-story building by the fire department, it is considered a second means through the windows because they will have egress-sized windows on the front and rear, and the side yard actually helps us with that, with emergencies, for somebody to be able to go in the back and access people in danger via ladder.
Okay.
Okay, well, whenever it comes to that.
Motion to.
Before we motion, does the applicant accept the conditions?
Yes, I was just about to say, I did receive Maggie's October 21st memo, and we accept the conditions within and also as put on the record this evening.
Last time.
Third time's the charm.
Motion to approve the COA with conditions as set out by staff.
Second.
Okay, I have Commissioner Sakong, Commissioner Gunther. All right, I think the only one I haven't started with, Commissioner Gunther.
Aye.
Commissioner Sandcamp.
Aye.
Commissioner Amatuzo.
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong.
Aye.
Commissioner Griga is absent. Commissioner Blazak is absent. Commissioner Cronin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gucciardo.
Aye.
And Chairman Gordon.
Aye.
All right, there's 7 votes in favor, none against, and no abstentions. The COA with conditions is approved.
Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate your time. Take care.
All right. Moving on the agenda to wrap us up before curfew. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to start the other one anyway. For tabled cases, 2624 is making, Kennedy is making some revisions to the plans. I have not seen them yet. You guys have not seen them yet. But they are making some revisions to the plans after meeting again with the local neighborhood associations. They're anticipating being on the November meeting. I hope for everyone they're on the November meeting because they've been
This
on
is
here.
Temple Bethel?
No, this is where I'm on tabled cases. So this is 2624. Temple Bethel will also be on the November meeting, barring a request to carry again. But they all of their new materials are uploaded on the portal if anyone, wants to take a look before testimony. Yeah, we were anticipating them being heard at this meeting, but they requested to carry the application this afternoon. And yeah, we have the carry demo cases, both of which carried to the November meeting. We'll see. I don't have a great idea. Morris Canal will definitely be heard in November. Yeah. And then other than that, we don't have resolutions to introduce or discuss. We don't have resolutions to memorialize. We don't need an executive session.
I just wanted to ask, wasn't the convention that I recall that someone would make a motion to approve with conditions, and then the applicant would be asked if they agreed to the conditions? I just wanted to avoid confusion.
No, that is typically how we have handled it in the past. However, them stating on the record prior that they accept them is not, as long as we have finalized the conditions, it's okay.
Yeah, Mr. Joseph is very enthusiastic about the conditions, I know.
He is. I'd rather them be enthusiastic than begrudgingly accept the conditions.
Yeah. All right.
All right. That being said, the only thing we have left to do is adjourn.
Motion.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second. It is 9:46. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.